Well, I am going to change the fuel filter on this 1954 Chrysler New Yorker. I'm having a problem getting it started. As you can see, my security device so, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, okay? This is the 331 Hemi V8. Looks huge. I've done a lot of work on this thing, and I'm having another problem now. I changed out the coil. I put a new distributor in, a completely new distributor, electronic. All new spark plug wires. I had the carburetor rebuilt. And if you can see down in here, maybe the light's not that good. That is a new fuel pump. And I'm still not getting fuel to the carburetor. So now I'm going to try the fuel filter. See if that helps. Because this is getting frustrating. I don't have a pressure device to check to see how much gas pressure I've got from the pump. So I don't know what's going on. This is crazy. The tank's got gas in it, I know that. And if I put a little gas in the carburetor, it will start briefly. So I'm going to see how this goes. The gas filter is right there. It shouldn't be too hard to change. I bought a clear plastic one so I can see what's going on. So I can see if it's filling up with gas. Well, there's the gas filter. What I did was I disconnected it down underneath from the hose clamp that goes from the fuel pump, but I couldn't get it off of here. It was frozen and it's too hard down there to pull, so I just cut it off. I bought some more hose anyway. So what I did was I just disconnected it up here off of the carburetor. But whoever rebuilt the carburetor, the company that rebuilt my carburetor and put it back on, had this bloody thing so tight I could barely get it off. You know, it's just, you can never find good help. You end up having to do it yourself. So that's why I'm doing this video. So anybody that's got a 331 Hemi, an old one, this is the way it works. I kind of wish I didn't have this air conditioning, this compressor on here, because they put the radiator in front of the water radiator, the regular antifreeze coolant radiator, which blocks a little bit, seems to be overheating a little, and so I can't even run this now anyway. California is pretty bad in the summer. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll probably just get a new radiator and install it, and maybe an electronic fan assembly so I can take that off the front, and that fan, that'll release a little bit of the friction, of the drag. So anyway, so that's where I'm at. I'll see how this goes. So there's the old fuel filter, and there is the new fuel filter. I bought some new hose. I can still use the clamps. And there is the metal tube. I noticed that they hadn't put any new Teflon tape on the threads here, so I'll have to do that. But this is pretty easy to do. Just getting to it, that's the biggest problem. Well, I'm making some headway. So what you want to try and do when you put this thing in, you want to try and get your hose clamp where you put your screwdriver on at the best direction where you can get at it to get it back off again. And you also got to make sure that these are unidirectional. So you got to make sure, I don't know if you can see that, but there is a little arrow on there showing the direction of the fuel. So you want to make sure that that's going the right way. It probably would work the other way, but if it's recommended to be a certain way, that's the way you should put it back on. So I'm going to put this sucker on and see if I see fuel go up in it when I'm trying to fire this thing up. This is what I really enjoy about working on vehicles. See that outflow, that little nipple thing there that's coming off of the gas filter, the gas pump. It's close to the frame, actually very close to the frame. There's no other place for it to go unless it points back, which then you can't get to the hose. So, anyway, I'm going to work with it the way it is. I'm going to see how it turns out. It's just my concern is that when you're, taking off or slowing down because of the motor mounts, the engine torques a little bit, twists, and of course that could hit the frame and bend that and break it actually eventually. So, it's just the fun stuff about trying to fix an old car. Still easier than working on a new one. Okay, I will continue. A couple of little things I want to mention. Sometimes it's really hard to get these hoses onto the fitting. So what I do is I get a tiny little bit of synthetic grease, just a little bit. And it helps really slide those suckers on. And you've also got to make sure that you go all the way up to the end. You don't want that sucker popping off while you're driving. So I think it's going to work. It does hit, the hose does hit the frame, but what are you going to do? It's the best you can come up with. Okay, well, there you can see that I have the hose clamp on, and I've got the adjustment part pointing up so that I can get to it real easy next time. So now I'm going to attach the other side to the filter. That's going to be a little more difficult. Well, here's a couple of little quick tips. I'm sure most of you already know about this kind of stuff, but maybe there's some that don't. You'd be surprised. So when you turn this, when it screws in, clockwise, what I always do is I put the Teflon tape and wind it on the same direction so that it won't come unraveled inside. I don't know if it really makes that much of a difference, but it's just something that I like to do to make sure it's all clean. And also, you don't want to get any Teflon tape over the opening, because you don't want anything to go through this gas line to get caught in the carburetor anymore, because you've got a couple of very fine adjustment pins. They are very fine, and if you get any kind of dirt or anything in there, you can wreak havoc with gas flow. So what I've decided to do, because that gas filter was way down inside, it was going to be hard to get to, what I've done is I have cut off the end of the fuel line, and I am going to attach the filter out here where I can get to it. Makes more sense, so that's what I'm going to actually do, and it'll just be better because it's plastic anyway. I don't want to touch the engine where it gets hot, maybe melt or something. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, well, this is what I ended up with. And I think that's much, much cleaner, much better. I can see what's going on. It'll stay cooler. You got to make sure that the fittings are nice and tight, snug. If this part here is not loose at all, you know. I like tie wraps, so I've tie wrapped the gas line to the steel rod for mounting of the air conditioning compressor. So the gas line is not touching the block, and it's not kinked. That is critical. I don't know if you can really see this, but that's what you want. You want a nice clean job so that it can be reliable. That's the main thing you want. Okay, I am going to fire this sucker up. At least I'm going to crank it and see if I'm getting fuel up into the fuel filter. I got a feeling I'm not. I got a feeling there's another problem somewhere, but at least I'm going to eliminate this problem. So let's give it a try here. Well, just as I thought, dry as a bone. So either the gas pump that I put on is not working, but I think it probably is, because I was getting the same problem with the old one. So there must be something else going on. Boy. Okay, well, I'll keep looking. Okay, I'm going to jack this thing up because I need to get up under it. I need to take a look at the fitting that goes into the gas tank. So I'm going to say something here, and I know most of you probably know this, but the thing is, there's a lot of dummies in this country, and you never want to get under a car with just this. You have got to get a jack stand, which is that. You want to make sure that it's against the frame solidly. You've got to have two. You've got to have a backup to hold this thing up. The last thing you want is to somebody come along and bump that jack and kick the fitting that releases the hydraulic fluid, and there you go. Your chest is crushed. You can't get out. So be 1,000% careful. I'm not risking my bloody life just to work on this stupid thing. So anyway, that's probably the best advice you can get. Okay, well, there's the fitting. It comes out of the gas tank. So I'm going to loosen it and just see if gas comes out, I guess. I don't know what else to do at this point. Well, I loosened up the fitting, pulled the gas line, and it's dry as a bone. And I know there's fuel in the tank. So I guess that's it for today, and I am going to have to pull the gas tank. Something I'm really looking forward to. So I will continue on with this video until I solve the problem.